Welcome to the Bible Quiz and Trivia channel. Today, we're tackling the Book of Habakkuk, exploring deep questions about justice, faith, and divine intervention. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video to support our content. After the quiz, share your score in the comments. We love seeing how well you do. Are you ready? Let's get started. Question 1. What is the main theme expressed in the Book of Habakkuk? A. The prosperity of the wicked. B. The love of God. C. The justice of God and the issue of why the wicked prosper. D. The creation of the world. Answer: C. The justice of God and the issue of why the wicked prosper. The main theme of the book of Habakkuk is the justice of God, particularly focusing on the prophet's perplexity over why God allows the wicked to prosper while the righteous suffer. This theme is explored through Habakkuk's dialogues with God. Question 2. How does Habakkuk describe his initial complaint to God? A. With joy and gratitude. B. As a simple inquiry. C. As a fervent plea for understanding the tolerance of injustice. D. Indifferently. Answer: C. As a fervent plea for understanding the tolerance of injustice. Habakkuk initially approaches God with a fervent plea, questioning how God can tolerate the injustice and corruption he observes in Judah. This sets the stage for the dialogue that unfolds in the subsequent chapters. Question 3. What is God's first response to Habakkuk's complaint about the injustice in Judah? A. God remains silent. B. God promises immediate punishment for the wicked. C. God explains that he will use the Babylonians to punish Judah. D. God denies the existence of injustice. Answer: C. God explains that he will use the Babylonians to punish Judah. God's first response to Habakkuk's complaint is to reveal his plan to use the Babylonians, a seemingly more wicked nation, as an instrument to punish Judah for their injustices, highlighting the mysterious ways of divine justice. Question 4. What perplexes Habakkuk about God's use of the Babylonians to punish Judah? A. Their distance from Judah. B. Their lack of military strength. C. Their greater wickedness compared to Judah. D. Their previous alliances with Judah. Answer: C. Their greater wickedness compared to Judah. Habakkuk is perplexed and troubled by God's plan to use the Babylonians, whom he sees as more wicked than Judah, to execute divine justice. This raises questions about the righteousness of God's methods. Question 5. How does Habakkuk react to God's plan to use a more wicked nation to punish a less wicked one? A. He agrees immediately. B. He questions God's justice. C. He is indifferent. D. He celebrates the decision. Answer: B. He questions God's justice. Habakkuk reacts by questioning the justice of using a more wicked nation to punish a less wicked one. His reaction embodies the prophet's struggle to understand God's seemingly paradoxical actions. Question 6. What specific accusations does Habakkuk make against the Babylonians? A. Laziness and incompetence. B. Greed and idolatry. C. Violence and oppression. D. Poor leadership. Answer: C. Violence and oppression. Habakkuk accuses the Babylonians of violence and oppression, highlighting their ruthless conquest and harsh treatment of conquered peoples, which deepens his dilemma over God's justice. Question 7. How does God respond to Habakkuk's confusion about the seemingly unchecked evil? A. By ignoring the questions. B. By promising eventual judgment for all wickedness. C. By changing his plans. D. By justifying the evil. Answer: B. By promising eventual judgment for all wickedness. God responds to Habakkuk's confusion by assuring him that there is a divine timetable for judgment and that all wickedness will eventually be punished, not just that of Judah, but also that of the Babylonians. Question 8. What vision is Habakkuk told to write down? A. A vision of Judah's prosperity. B. A vision detailing the destruction of the temple. C. A vision of the ultimate divine judgment against Babylon. D. A vision of a new kingdom. Answer. C. A vision of the ultimate divine judgment against Babylon. Habakkuk is instructed to write down the vision that details the eventual divine judgment against Babylon, ensuring that this prophecy is recorded for posterity and serves as a reassurance that justice will prevail. Question 9. How does Habakkuk describe the eventual fate of the Babylonian Empire? A. As everlasting and dominant. B. As facing a sudden and divine overthrow. C. As merging peacefully with other nations. D. As becoming an ally of Judah. Answer. B. As facing a sudden and divine overthrow. Habakkuk describes the eventual fate of the Babylonian Empire as facing a sudden and divine overthrow, indicating that their reign of terror will end abruptly as a result of divine intervention, fulfilling God's justice. Question 10. What does Habakkuk say about the righteous living by faith? A. It is unnecessary. B. It is the key to prosperity. C. The righteous shall live by his faith. D. Faith is only for the weak. Answer. C. The righteous shall live by his faith. One of the key verses in Habakkuk states that the righteous shall live by his faith. Habakkuk 2-4, emphasizing that faith is fundamental for understanding the challenges posed by injustice and for trusting in God's ultimate plan for justice. Question 11. What are the woes that Habakkuk pronounces on the Babylonians? A. Blessings in disguise. B. Specific curses related to their greed, violence, and idolatry. C. General statements of goodwill. D. Predictions of natural disasters. Answer. B. Specific curses related to their greed, violence, and idolatry. Habakkuk pronounces specific woes or curses on the Babylonians, each related to their specific sins such as greed, violence, and idolatry, foretelling the consequences they will face for their actions. Question 12. How does the book depict God's power over nature? A. God is indifferent to nature. B. God's power is limited to human affairs. C. God controls natural forces, using them to execute judgment. D. Nature operates independently of God. Answer. C. God controls natural forces, using them to execute judgment. The Book of Habakkuk depicts God's power over nature by showing him using natural forces such as earthquakes and pestilence to execute judgment, illustrating his sovereignty over all creation. Question 13. In what way does Habakkuk's prayer reflect ancient Near Eastern theophanies? A. By denying their existence. B. By using imagery of God coming with pestilence and earthquakes. C. By focusing solely on future prophecies. D. By using a scientific explanation for natural phenomena. Answer. B. By using imagery of God coming with pestilence and earthquakes. Habakkuk's prayer reflects ancient Near Eastern theophanies by using vivid imagery of God coming with pestilence and moving the earth, reminiscent of divine appearances in other ancient texts, which emphasize God's majestic and awe-inspiring presence. Question 14. What imagery does Habakkuk use to describe God's appearance in his prayer? A. A gentle shepherd. B. A warrior with radiant splendor and plagues. C. A scribe recording deeds. D. A merchant traveling. Answer. B. A warrior with radiant splendor and plagues. In his prayer, Habakkuk uses imagery of God as a warrior characterized by radiant splendor, with plagues and natural elements accompanying his approach, highlighting God's might and his role as the deliverer and judge. Question 15. How does the book conclude Habakkuk's dialogue with God? A. With Habakkuk's continued questioning. B. With Habakkuk expressing trust in God despite uncertainties. C. With a declaration of God's guilt. D. With Habakkuk abandoning his faith. Answer B. With Habakkuk expressing trust in God despite uncertainties. The book concludes with Habakkuk expressing a profound trust in God, despite the ongoing injustices and the perplexities he has faced. This reflects a deep faith in God's sovereignty and justice, culminating in a prayer of awe and submission. Question 16. What role does faith play in the message of Habakkuk? A. It is criticized as being outdated. B. It is central, emphasizing that the righteous will live by their faith. C. It is mentioned as unnecessary for survival. D. It is discouraged in favor of reason. Answer B. It is central, emphasizing that the righteous will live by their faith. Habakkuk stresses the importance of faith, particularly in his profound declaration that the righteous shall live by his faith. Habakkuk 2-4. This principle underscores the need for steadfast belief in God's promises, especially during periods of injustice and suffering. Question 17. How is justice a central issue in Habakkuk's prophecies? It is mentioned as a minor concern. B. Justice is depicted as being swift and harsh. C. Habakkuk focuses on the seeming absence of justice, questioning God about it. D. Justice is not addressed in the prophecies. Answer C. Habakkuk focuses on the seeming absence of justice, questioning God about it. Justice is a central issue in Habakkuk's prophecies. As he grapples with the perception that justice is lacking in the world, he openly questions God about why the wicked prosper and the righteous suffer, which drives the dialogue of the book. Question 18. What does Habakkuk prophesy about the temples filled with treasure by dishonest gain? A. They will be blessed and prosper. B. They will become centers of education. C. They will be filled with glory from God. D. They will ultimately be shamed and come to ruin. Answer D. They will ultimately be shamed and come to ruin. Habakkuk prophesies that the temples filled with treasure by dishonest gain will eventually be shamed and come to ruin. Habakkuk 2-9-11. This reflects the broader theme that illicit gains will not endure and that those who profit unjustly will face divine retribution. Question 19. What are the implications of Habakkuk's statement? The earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord. A. It implies a future state of universal recognition of God's sovereignty. B. It suggests the earth will become physically filled with God's presence. C. It indicates a new era of technological advancement. D. It signifies the end of all religious belief. Answer A. It implies a future state of universal recognition of God's sovereignty. Habakkuk's statement that the earth will be filled with the knowledge of the glory of the Lord, Habakkuk 2:14, implies a future state where God's sovereignty and glory are universally recognized and revered, aligning with biblical themes of a coming era of divine knowledge and justice. Question 20. How is God described as responding to injustice in the book of Habakkuk? A. By ignoring the injustices. B. By immediately ending all injustices. C. By ensuring that justice is eventually served, although it may not be immediate. D. By punishing the victims of injustice. Answer C. By ensuring that justice is eventually served, although it may not be immediate. In the book of Habakkuk, God is described as responding to injustice by ensuring that justice is eventually served. While his response may not be immediate, God assures Habakkuk that he is in control and will act in due time to address all wrongs. Habakkuk 2-3. Question 21. What is Habakkuk's final attitude towards the circumstances he faces? A. Resentment and anger. B. Despair and hopelessness. C. Trust and confidence in God, despite the circumstances. D. Indifference to outcomes. Answer: C. Trust and confidence in God, despite the circumstances. Habakkuk's final attitude is one of trust and confidence in God, despite the troubling circumstances he observes. He expresses a profound faith in God's ultimate goodness and justice, affirming that he will rejoice in the Lord regardless of external situations. Habakkuk 3:17-19. Question 22. How does Habakkuk describe the impact of God's revelation on his own state of mind? A. It leaves him confused and uncertain. B. It has no impact on him. C. It causes him to doubt more. D. It brings him peace and a sense of awe despite his fear. Answer: D. It brings him peace and a sense of awe despite his fear. Habakkuk describes the impact of God's revelation as bringing him peace and a sense of awe despite his initial fear. His encounter with God transforms his perspective, allowing him to face uncertain times with a steady and faithful heart. Habakkuk 3:16-19. Question 23. What symbolism is used in Habakkuk to describe economic exploitation? A. Natural disasters. B. Building with bloodshed and establishing towns by iniquity. C. Peaceful negotiations. D. Agricultural success. Answer: B. Building with bloodshed and establishing towns by iniquity. Habakkuk uses the symbolism of building with bloodshed and establishing towns by iniquity to describe economic exploitation. Habakkuk 2:12. This imagery criticizes those who build their wealth and power at the expense of justice and human dignity. Question 24. How does Habakkuk use the concept of silence in his dialogue with God? A. He demands that God should always speak. B. He interprets silence as agreement. C. He calls for silence to listen and reflect on God's answers. D. He uses silence to express his dissatisfaction. Answer: C. He calls for silence to listen and reflect on God's answers. Habakkuk uses the concept of silence strategically in his dialogue with God, calling for silence to listen and reflect on God's answers. Habakkuk 2:20. This reflects a deep respect for divine authority and the importance of contemplation in understanding God's will. Question 25. What comparisons does Habakkuk make between God and idols? A. God and idols are equally powerful. B. God, unlike idols, is a living God who actively intervenes in the world. C. Idols have more influence over human affairs. D. God learns from idols. Answer: B. God, unlike idols, is a living God who actively intervenes in the world. Habakkuk makes comparisons between God and idols, emphasizing that unlike idols, which are lifeless and powerless, God is a living God who actively intervenes in the world and administers justice. Habakkuk 2:18-19. Question 26. How does the book address the theme of waiting on God's timing? A. It discourages waiting and promotes immediate action. B. It highlights the importance of patience and trusting in God's perfect timing. C. It suggests that timing is irrelevant. D. It criticizes those who wait. Answer: B. It highlights the importance of patience and trusting in God's perfect timing. The book of Habakkuk addresses the theme of waiting on God's timing by highlighting the importance of patience and trusting in God's perfect timing for justice and intervention. Habakkuk 2-3. This teaches that divine timing often differs from human expectations, but is ultimately perfect. Question 27. In what manner does Habakkuk challenge or question God? A. Aggressively and with disrespect. B. Politely and with deep reverence. C. He does not challenge or question God at all. D. With humor and lightheartedness. Answer B. Politely and with deep reverence. Habakkuk challenges and questions God politely and with deep reverence, exemplifying how one can wrestle with difficult questions about divine justice while still maintaining faith and respect for God's sovereignty. Habakkuk 1-2-4. Question 28. What significance does Habakkuk's watchtower have in his prophecies? A. It is a place of defense against enemies. B. It symbolizes his vigilance and readiness to hear from God. C. It is merely a physical location with no symbolic meaning. D. It represents his isolation from society. Answer B. It symbolizes his vigilance and readiness to hear from God. Habakkuk's watchtower is significant in his prophecies as it symbolizes his vigilance and readiness to hear from God. It represents his proactive stance in seeking divine perspective and clarity. Habakkuk 2-1. Question 29. How does Habakkuk contrast God's perceived silence with his actions? A. By showing that God is never silent nor inactive. B. By suggesting that God's silence is a form of punishment. C. By demonstrating that although God may seem silent, he is actively working out his plans for justice. D. By claiming that God's silence indicates approval of the status quo. Answer C. By demonstrating that although God may seem silent, he is actively working out his plans for justice. Habakkuk contrasts God's perceived silence with his actions by demonstrating that although God may seem silent at times, he is actively working out his plans for justice and will not fail to act at the appointed time. Habakkuk 2-3. Question 30. What lessons does Habakkuk offer for handling doubt and confusion about divine justice? A. To reject all doubts and never question God. B. To embrace doubt as the only rational response. C. To persist in faith and continue dialoguing with God for understanding. D. To solve doubts independently without seeking divine guidance. Answer C. To persist in faith and continue dialoguing with God for understanding. Habakkuk offers lessons for handling doubt and confusion about divine justice by encouraging believers to persist in their faith and continue dialoguing with God to gain understanding. His own interactions with God demonstrate how active engagement with one's faith can lead to deeper insight and reassurance. Habakkuk 3:17-19.